If you're finally ready to move out of your parents' house, but you just haven't yet because you don't know how, then this video's for you.
Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Philip.
And we teach you about grown-up stuff.
Because adulting shouldn't suck. If you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the comments below. Let us know what age you're trying to move out.
In this video, we're going to tell you how to apply for an apartment so you can move out and live on your own.
If you've watched any of our other videos on this channel, then you know that Alex and I moved out when we were 18 years old and we didn't have to move back in. Which, I mean, it's not that hard to do, but for whatever reason, a lot of people keep screwing it up. So for us, we consider that a pretty big deal, not having to move back in with the folks.
Sadly, this isn't something that they teach in high school. They don't teach you how to actually move out of your parents' house the right way. And who's that really leave it up to? You figure it out by trial and error, maybe. Maybe you ask your parents, but chances are, unless they live in an apartment or moved into a new apartment recently, then the process has probably changed. The qualification factors are different. So what do?
Moving out isn't easy. There's a reason why people are still living at their parents' house when they're 20 years old and older. Back in the day, when we were younger, and even before that, when our parents were younger, you turned 18, you graduated high school, your parents kicked you out.
Get out.
But for whatever reason, kids nowadays are dragging their feet. So, Alex and I took the time to create a course for you guys so you can create your own move-out plan so you can get out of your parents' house without falling on your face. It's great. You need to check it out. The link's going to be in the description below.
Finding a place can be hard. There's a lot of things to consider, like, do you like your family? Do you want to live close to your family? Are you going to school? Do you want to live close to work? Do you want to live close to your friends? Those are all things that you have to consider when you're looking for a place to live. And I don't know, do none of those things really matter to you? You just got to go somewhere that you can afford that's further away, and then you spend more money commuting and more time. I know I personally hate commuting. It sucks the life out of me sitting in traffic, but everybody's different. You know, if you want to live closer, maybe you have to pay more money to live in those areas. It's all stuff you have to think about.
Not only is it like really hard to find a place to live, it's just as hard applying for these places to live. I mean, it's a process. And if you're not prepared, you're going to be wasting your own time and your own money applying for places that you're not qualified for.
When you fill out an application to live somewhere, it's known as a rental application. And it's going to cost you money. It's not free. Just like if you wanted to go to college, it's not free to apply to go to college either. So maybe you're saying to yourself, but Alex and Philip, why does it cost me money if I'm trying to give them money to live somewhere? Right, it's a good question. It makes sense.
Silly. But really, it's not, right? These places that you're applying to live at, they're screening you to make sure that you're going to be a qualified rentee, right?
Renter.
A tenant, a renter.
Yeah.
All of those things. Now, these places that are screening you, they typically have to pay some sort of screening agency a fee to screen you. So, essentially, you're paying that with your rental application fee.
Which makes sense. I mean, if you've rented places before and you stiffed them on your bills and got evicted because you sucked at being a renter, they probably want to know that.
Right.
Or if you've skipped on paying bills in the past, you're more likely to do it again in the future. So you're more likely to get disqualified during that rental application process. Yeah. That makes sense.
The landlords are going to want to know this information. They're not going to give you the keys to an apartment if you're not going to give them money for those keys continuously and regularly. You know what I mean? Because it's hard to kick people out.
So not only are they screening you to make sure that you've paid all your bills in the past and you haven't been evicted, they're also going to be screening you to see if you're a criminal. Because do they want to rent to criminals? They can legally discriminate against people on that, depending on the state that you live in. And then it's also to help protect your neighbors, depending on what kind of crimes you committed. So if you're a criminal, it does make getting an apartment or finding somewhere to live more difficult. Now, every time you pay one of these rental application fees, it's going to be anywhere from $30 to $75. I think the average is $45 across the country, and that's per adult. So if you have to have roommates in order to qualify to live in one of these apartments or houses, then that fee is per person applying.
And you can't be slick either and be like, oh, well, I'm just going to pay the rental application fee and just do the application, and my roommates are just going to live there, and I ain't going to tell nobody.
Oh, they're going to find out.
They're going to find out. And if they do, they're typically going to kick you out, right?
Not worth it.
Don't do it. Just pay that money up front, get everybody on the lease, you know, CYA, Cover your ass. Make sure you're good to go.
The last thing you want to do is get evicted, because then it makes getting an apartment super hard. And if you go to a place that doesn't do any kind of screening for the backgrounds, it's probably not a place you want to live.
Yeah. You're probably going to be living next to some people that are going to steal your TV when you're not home.
I mean, I lived in one of those places. That's all I could afford when I was first moving out. And my car got broken into 3 times, and my apartment got broken into once. Lesson learned. I didn't have any credit.
Sucks to suck. Typically, the first part of your rental application is going to consist of your contact information and address. Sounds pretty simple, but you're going to want to put a phone number that you can be reached at, an email address that you actually check and have access to, and a good physical address where you actually get mail. This is where they're going to send you stuff or get a hold of you, letting you know the status of your application, or if they have any more questions about your application. This part of the application process might also include pets. So if you do have a pet, this is where you would want to list that. Some places are going to allow pets. Some places are only going to allow certain kind of pets. And then some places are not going to allow pets at all. So depending on that place that you're applying at, you're going to want to know if they're going to allow pets. Because if you have a pet and they don't allow pets and you apply to this place, they're just going to deny you right out of the gate. And you just wasted that application fee for nothing.
Dude, when we moved to Arizona, it was so hard to find a place to rent that actually accepted pets. And then on top of that, you got to pay that pet deposit. And I think it was like $250 an animal is what we ended up paying. It's expensive.
Yeah.
Animals are not cheap.
And if you got like particular breeds, that makes it hard too.
Yeah, like one of the more aggressive breeds. I mean, obviously it all comes down to the owner, but like if you got Pit Bull or Doberman Pinscher or something like that.
Yeah. Rottweiler, German Shepherd, some even boxers.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, like Chihuahuas attack more people, okay?
All right, the second part on the rental history application is your rental history.
What?
Now, if you don't have any rental history, it's not an immediate disqualifier. It might, depending on where you're trying to apply, but more often than not, it's not an immediate disqualifier. You just have to put down a larger security deposit or have a cosigner. And a cosigner is somebody who signs on your behalf that if you don't pay your bills, they agree to pay them for you. So depending on the kind of people you know, it might be hard to get a cosigner because that's a lot of risk. Because if you don't pay your bills and you start stiffing them, now they got to cover for it. And if they don't do it, it's going to screw up their credit history.
As well as yours.
And if you do have previous rental history, this is where you're going to have to list your landlord's name, contact information, email, stuff like that. And if you left on bad terms, which hopefully you didn't, but if you did, now's the time you want to explain your side of the story. And honesty is the best policy. Try and be ahead of it and upfront, because if you try to hide it, they're just going to see that and they're not going to trust you if you didn't tell them about it up front, and boom, immediately disqualified.
People understand that people make mistakes and things happen in people's lives. And if you explain that, you're like, hey, look, this is what happened. Had some family stuff go on. Didn't have money. Couldn't pay my rent for 3 months. They booted me out. They'd be like, okay, cool. Is your situation better? How long have you had your job? You got a savings account? Yes, 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 yes. Cool. Here you go, but you're going to have to give us a bigger security deposit. Next part of the rental application, employment history. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, but landlords will probably want to know if you're employed or not. Like, you have to have money to be able to pay the rent.
Weird.
Hello. They're most likely going to ask for a pay stub, your employer's name, and phone number. They want to make sure that you're a good employee, that you show up to work, so on and so forth. If you haven't had the same job for at least a year, they're probably going to ask for your previous employer's name as well, so make sure you have that stuff ready to go. A good rule of thumb, you want to make 3 times the amount of rent each month. So if rent's $1,000, then you want to be making at least $3,000 to make sure that you're going to be getting qualified for that apartment that you're applying for based off of your income. If you're not employed and you're trying to move out because you got a lot of money saved up, or you're a trust fund baby, or your parents are paying for your stuff, then you can still apply for these apartments. You're just going to need to have a cosigner so that the landlords can ensure that the monthly bills are going to be getting paid.
Okay, so the fourth part of this is the permission to run the background check. Now, this is going to allow them to do everything we talked about legally, whether it's running your criminal check, your credit history, your rental history, all that stuff, which they are going to want to do to make sure that you're a qualified applicant. And if they're not doing that and that part is missing from the application process, you should probably wonder what kind of place you're moving into.
More times than not, rental applications are going to ask for references. References are going to be those people that you're going to list down on these applications so they can tell the landlords, your potential landlords, what type of person you are. Like, are you good character? Are you responsible? Have you paid your bills on time? Do you show up to work? Do you call in sick? So on and so forth. You're not going to want to list down like family members. Landlords don't like that type of stuff. You're going to want to list teachers, employers, previous landlords, coaches, any presidents of any clubs that you were a part of, that type of stuff. Okay? No family. Nobody cares about what your grandma has to say or your mommy or your daddy because they just want you to move out anyway. So they'll say anything to get you off of their couch, out of their basement, or out of that room that they're going to turn into an at-home gym once you move out.
Filling out your rental application doesn't have to be overwhelming. As a matter of fact, we created a free template and we put it in the description below. So click on that link, download it, take it with you. You'll have everything in front of you and it'll make filling out your rental application that much easier when you're sitting there.
If you need more help moving out, we got an entire playlist. We got a course. We got 20-something videos on how to move out. So watch it, check them out. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. In the comments below, let us know if filling out your first rental application was easy or not.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Ugh.